got some new lamps, because more light is always better. Shalom, I'm the Messianic Torah dude, and this week's Torah portion is Tisa.
Lights go down when we hit the stage. The heart of the crowd begins to race. The people in the chairs are taking a stand. We're rocking and rolling for the son of man. Rocking and rolling, yeah.
Tisa, or when you elevate, comes to us from Exodus chapter 30, verse 11, through 34, verse 35. And this Torah portion has a lot of important things in it. For example, the story of the golden calf.
What are you doing?
I'm spray painting my calf gold.
It's not that kind of calf. It's a baby cow.
Which I covered last year. Then we have the details of the anointing oil. But one of the things I really wanted to focus on was the story of Moses coming down from Mount Sinai, and he had the glow face. His face was glowing. This is described in Exodus chapter 34, verses 29 through 35. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand, as he came down from the mountain, Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone, because he had been talking with God. Aaron and all the people of Israel saw Moses, and behold, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come near him. But Moses called to them, and Aaron and the leaders of the congregation returned to him. And Moses talked with them. Afterwards, all the people of Israel came near, and he commanded them all that the Lord had spoken with him in Mount Sinai. And when Moses had finished speaking with them, he put a veil over his face. Now, one of the things that's kind of interesting about this is the literal translation for Moses' glowing face is that Moses had the horns of the sun. And so when you look at some of these older medieval pictures of Moses, they give him horns. Now, that doesn't have anything to do with really anything, but I think it's interesting, and now it's a thing that you know. So whenever you see those old statues of Moses looking like this, you know where that comes from. The shining face of Moses is also mentioned in 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 12 through 18, where it says, "Since we have such a hope, we are very bold, not like Moses, who would put a veil over his face, so that the Israelites might not gaze at the outcome of what was being brought to an end. But their minds were hardened, for to this day when they read the Old Covenant, that same veil remains unlifted, because only through Messiah is it taken away. Yes, to this day whenever Moses is read, a veil lies over their hearts. But when one turns to the Lord, the veil is removed. Now the Lord is Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And we all, with unveiled face, behold the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image, from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, who is Spirit." Now, Moses had a glowing face because he had been in the presence of the Lord. And there were several reasons that he had to cover the face. One which is talked about here in this passage in 2 Corinthians, the fact that that glow, that shine, was fading. The minute Moses stepped out of the presence of the Lord, that shining of his face began to fade away. Yet, there was so much residual shining of his face that it caused panic for the people. A couple weeks ago, we talked about how the people wanted Moses to go up the mountain to speak with the Lord because they were afraid of how glorious and how holy the Lord was. And now we're seeing another example of people being afraid of that shining face. Yet, what we learn from this verse in 2 Corinthians is through Messiah Yeshua, we have access to an undying source of light. Moses, through his time being close to the Lord, caused his face to shine. And as believers in Yeshua, through Yeshua, we are able to have that connection with the Lord. It's the difference between a flashlight, which you turn on the flashlight and eventually the batteries will run out and it won't have any light, versus a lamp that, as long as that lamp is plugged in, it's going to provide light. Now, when we speak of light, of course, we go obviously to Matthew chapter 5, verses 14 through 16, in which Yeshua says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to the Father who is in heaven." Just like Moses, our closeness with the Lord should fill us with a light, and we shouldn't be afraid to show that light to everyone around us. So what are some ways we can shine our light to those around us? Let me know in the comments, and if we gave you a laugh, give us a like, and if you learned something, give us a share. I'm the Messianic Torah Dude. Shalom, and stay in the Word.